Hello and welcome to Bead with me. Today we are going to bead a net pattern cover for our glass float. We're going to bead this in a long flat piece that you will then connect together once you have enough beads around the length, the circumference of the bead. We're going to be using bugle beads and 11/0 beads. I'm using 6 mm bugle beads and 11/0 seed beads. In this float, I used a much longer bugle bead, so it took less bugle beads to make the pattern. In today's tutorial with the shorter bugle beads, we're going to need 11 bugle beads with 3 11/0s between each bugle bead. So let's get started. Starting with a very long thread, at least 3 arm lengths or longer, and a bead stop just in case. I'm gonna get some bugle beads out and my 11/0s. So we're going to start by picking up 4 11/0s. You're going to pull that all the way through to the end of your string. You're going to skip the first seed bead and sew down through the 3 seed beads. And that is the start of our net. So next, I'm going to go ahead and take that off. We're going to pick up 1 bugle bead, 3 seed beads, 1 bugle bead, 3 seed beads, a bugle bead, and 3 seed beads, and continue that until you have 11 bugle beads on your thread. Ending with a bugle bead, and then we'll add our last set of seed beads. And of course you can do this in any color combination you like. Today I'm doing it in red and white. Okay, we have 11 white bugle beads with 3 red 11/0s between each bugle bead. So to end it, we're going to end with 4 seed beads, just like we started on this end. So 4 seed beads. Now you're going to push that end seed bead out of the way and sew through those 3 11-ohs. Okay. So now we're going to pick up, to start our next line, we're going to pick up a bugle bead, 3 11-ohs, another bugle bead, and 1 11-oh. So it's going to look like that. We're going to skip this middle section and sew into the middle seed bead in this set of 3. Okay. So next, because we only always want a total of 5 beads in the middle here, so you're going to pick up 1 11-oh, pick up your bugle bead, 3 11-ohs, and 1 bugle bead, and 1 seed bead. So you have 1 seed bead and 11-oh, 3 seed beads and 11-oh, and 1 seed bead. You're going to skip that one, and we're going to sew into the middle seed bead in this set of 3. Okay, again, an 11-oh, a bugle bead, 3 11-ohs, a bugle bead, and 11-oh. Skip this set of 3 beads and sew into the middle one of the next set of 3 beads. Okay, continue that. 1 11-oh, a bugle bead, 3 11-ohs, a bugle bead, and 1 11-oh. Skip that one, sew into this one. One 11-oh, a bugle, 3 11-ohs, a bugle, and 1 11-oh. Skip this one, sew into this one. Okay, that brings us down to here. Now we're going to ignore this right here for now. We're going to pick up 1 11-oh, 1 bugle bead, and 4 11/0. So 1 11/0, a bugle bead, and 4 11/0. So it looks like that. You're going to skip this end seed bead, sew down through the 3 11/0. Okay. Now this just flipped over from being this way to that way. So next we're going to pick up a bugle bead, 3 11/0, a bugle bead, and 1 11/0. So bugle, 3, a bugle, and 1. So this time we're going to skip this section and we're going to sew into the middle seed bead in this section. Okay. So that's what it looks like so far. So 1 11/0, 1 bugle, 3 11/0, 1 bugle, and 1 11/0. We're going to skip this. And sew into this middle one. Okay, continue that pattern, 1 11/0, 1 bugle, 3 11/0, and 1 bugle, and 1 11/0. Skip that set, sew into next middle seed bead. The type of beads are seed beads. This 11/0 is the size. So sometimes I say seed beads, sometimes I say 11/0. 1 11/0, 1 bugle, 3 11/0, and 1 bugle, and 1 11/0. Okay, so that brings us almost to the end. So just like we did on the other side, we're going to skip this. This one's a completed ending. We're going to pick up 1 seed bead, 1 bugle, and 4 beads. So 1 11/0, a bugle, and 4 11/0. I'm going to turn my work, skip the end seed bead, and sew down through the other 3. Okay. And then we'll continue just like we did on the previous row. 111, 3 seed beads, 111, and 1 seed bead. We're going to skip this one and sew into this middle one. I got my needle thread tangled up here. Okay. And now you're going to continue the 1 11 bugle bead, 3 11s, a bugle bead, and 1 11. And you'll continue with this pattern until you get to the end of your row. And this is the net pattern that most people make when they're making covers for their glass floats. They're also used as a pattern for covering glass or plastic ornaments for Christmas time. But here in Alaska, most people use this pattern to cover their glass floats, to hang them up in their windows. You want to avoid using these short little cut-off pieces and these with a really sharp edge like that, because they'll kind of cut through your string. Okay, so we're at the end again, so we're going to pick up 1 11 1 seed bead, and 4 11s. You can turn your work to however it's comfortable with you. Skip that top 11, sew down through the other 3 11s. All right, so you'll just continue doing this pattern until your net is to cover to go all the way around your float. So you'll have to get your glass float out and measure as you're going. Okay, I think our net is long enough to go around my float. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of these little pointy up things. Yours may be different depending on the size of your float. So when we wrap it around, there is still a gap, but we do still have to pretty much make another row to connect these two sides together. And when you pull that tight, one more row should do that. So, for me, this is the most difficult part of this pattern, because you have to juggle with trying to hold this together and sewing. So our thread is up here. So we're going to pick up a bugle bead. And 1 11-0. And we're going to sew it into this bead over here in the middle. We're going to pick up an 11-0, a bugle bead, and an 11-0. So just 3 beads. And now we're going to connect it to this middle bead over here on the other side. And make sure your string doesn't get all tangled. So let's see. So we're closing up that gap, you see. So an 11-0, a bugle bead, and 11-0. We're going to go to the other side, over here, and sew into this middle seed bead. Oh, come on. And you're just going to continue like that until you get to the end, until it's all connected. 1 11-0, 1 bugle bead, and 1 11-0. Going back and forth. Closing that gap. Just work your way all the way down, going back and forth. Oops, where's my 11-0? You're going to know which bead because this one only has 3, where you see this one's 5, it's completed. Got it. Just to get tangled. Okay, one more. And on this last one, we're just going to pick up an 11-0 and a bugle bead. Because we're going to connect to this up here. Okay. Now we have to sew through and connect all of these beads up here, and you're going to do the same on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to try these white round beads. I think they're 4mm. One in between each. Plus, I like to have a bigger bead on the top to attach my hanger from, because we're going to go round through the top of these quite a few times, and it's going to get very tight in these small beads with all the string going through. This. You can use whatever you beat. You could use more 11-0s up here or whatever you want. And whatever matches the project you're doing, what color you're using. Since I'm doing a red and white theme, I thought the white bigger white round beads would look good instead of doing red. Now what? Okay, last one, and then we'll be back to where we started. Just going to feed that through the one we started on. Pull that tight, and then see what we have going on down on the bottom here. So now I'm just going to work my way back around through all of the beads. Okay, I think that's twice, should be good. Now you just want to pull that tight. Do a knot. And then eventually you'll want to work this string, the rest of this thread back in to your beading. We might be able to work our way down, and it should be enough to cover to sew up the bottom. So I'm just going to work my thread down to the bottom, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, so I got my white 8/0s out, and we're going to try those. So we're going to do a 11/0, 8/0, and 11/0, and see how that works. Okay. Let's see.
Hey,
That's good.
it's snowing again.
Okay, so I can pull it tight enough with the 211/0s and the 8/0s instead of the 4mm rounds, because you don't want there to be any slack up here at the top, because when you put the hanger on, you want the beadwork to be tight. At least I do. So we're just going to work our thread through all the beads. Probably only need to go around a couple times. Just go around and make it nice and tight, and then tie it off. I'm just working my thread up this way so I can do a knot up here as well. And then just sew your thread up through some beads so you can cut the string. You can tie another knot if you want. Okay. Okay, for now I'm going to cut it. Okay, so that's that step done. It's all closed in. It's nice and tight. So the next step that we'll do is which I'll probably do tomorrow, is the hanger, so we can hang this. And then we'll do our tassels on the bottom. But that's how you do a net pattern with bugle beads and 11/0. And like I said, you can do them with all seed beads and make the middle bead right here a different color if you want. But just make sure you have a lot of 11/0 seed beads if you're going to use seed beads. All right. Okay, so we're back. And next we're going to add the hanger that you're going to hang this float by. And I've already started. We're continuing in our 3 11/0 and a bugle. And I've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bugle beads, ending with 3 11/0. And then I put in just a round bead there, a stop bead. And then I added 2 bugle beads between 3 sets of 11/0. So you want 6 11/0 in the middle of your hanger. And that's where it's going to hang off of. A bugle bead, 3 11/0, a bugle bead, and 3 11/0. And so I am going to sew this thread back through the stop bead right here. And there's our little hanger. And now I'm just going to do the same thing I did on this side. 3 11/0 and a bugle bead until you have 12 bugle beads, and then we'll meet you at the end. Filming all this can be takes a lot of video, so just keep doing this pattern. 3 11/0 and a bugle bead. Oops. 3 11/0. A bugle bead, 3 11/0, and bugle bead until you have 12 bugle beads, ending with 3 11/0. Okay, I have 12 bugles, ending with 3 11/0 to match the other side of this hanger. So next, I'm going to attach this to the other side of the float. Just so it's like halfway. So, just like that. You're going to sew around to the other side and go to the middle, which is somewhere around here. Doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to pull that, do a slip knot just to hold it in place. And then you're going to repeat what you did with this hanger. You're going to make another hanger. So you're going to start with 3 11/0. a bugle bead, and 3 11/0 until you have 12 bugle beads ending with 3 11/0. Just like on the other side. So go ahead and finish that, and we'll meet you when you get there. Okay, we have 12 bugle beads with 3 11/0 between them, ending with 3 11/0. I'm going to just do a slip knot at the end of this bead just to hold the beads in place. Pull down, and then we're gonna grab our first half of our hanger. We're gonna sew up through this big round bead. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and sew through all of these beads in the hanger just to strengthen this hanger. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. Just to make sure our thread doesn't break while this float is hanging. Okay, and then you're going to sew back down through that big bead. I like to come out on the side that the next strand of beads is going to go. All right. So to complete this hanger, we're going to start with 3 11/0 and a bugle bead and continue that just like we did on the other ones until you have 12 bugle beads ending with 3 11/0. Okay. Okay. So I finished beading the last strand, and we're going to connect this to the other side across from where we started this strand, so about here. Okay. So now you're just going to take your needle and just sew all the way around these beads again, just to strengthen that. If you can, sometimes these small beads are hard to get a needle through again. Just do some slip knots along the way. And we're pretty much back from where we started our strands. So now I'm just going to run my needle down through some of these beads to tie it off, to tie off the thread. Okay, that should be good. Do a slip knot. And cut your thread. Okay, so there's your hanger. The next thing we're going to do is get a long piece of thread, run it through your beads, and we're going to start our tassels on the bottom here. So go ahead and connect your thread, and I'll meet you back. Okay, I have my thread started and ready to go on the bottom of the float to add our tassels. So to start off, we're going to do the same thing we did on the hanger. We're going to do 3 11/0s, a bugle bead and 3 11/0s, and we're going to do it about the same length, which is 12 bugle beads. So that's how we'll start off our tassel. The other thing you want to do is decide what decorative beads you want to add to your tassel. And I've got mine all laid out. Enough beads for the 5 tassels. And this will be the starting part when I get to the end of my bugle beads, and the ending part where I hang my teardrop. So let's start with the 3 11/0s and a bugle bead, and 3 11/0s and the bugle bead. You can do whatever combination you want. I kind of try to stick with the same pattern I've used throughout the float so far. So I'm going to record this first tassel, and then to save time on the video and recording, you just repeat that same pattern on all of the tassels you're going to make, however many you decide you're going to do. Be careful with your long thread that it doesn't get tangled up in everything. If you've watched any of my other videos before, you know that I've always say to get creative with your tassels. Add fun beads or whatever you want to them. Make your own style. This is kind of my style. You can play with your tassels, and you can add your decorative beads sooner. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. You can come up with your own design and make it fun for you. This is how I do mine, and I'm kind of how I usually do them. So we need one more bugle bead and one more set of 3 11-ohs. And that's 12. If you want to make it longer, you can. I'm actually thinking I'll add one more. That makes it 13. I'm just going to do a slip knot on the end of that bead, 11-oh, just to hold those beads in place. Okay, so now I'm going to start adding these decorative beads. So I'm going to pick up one of these crystals, a 4mm white bead, a bigger red round bead, another white, a fun flat white bead, another white. I forgot to put more round beads out, but I've got this fun silver bead, another white, and you can do this in any color combination you want. That's just how I decided to do mine. Now I've got a big red crystal round, the white, one of my favorite elements, these silver round balls. They have holes in them. I don't know if you can see that, but they're really pretty. I always like to add them to my tassels. And then I've got this fun flat rectangle bead. Another one of these flat round ones. So this is what it's looking like. And then our final teardrop. And to the end of that, I am going to add actually, I think I'm going to add, hang on. Okay, I got some silver beads out, 11-ohs, and I'm going to the end of this teardrop, I'm going to add a red 11-oh, a silver red 11-oh, and a red 11-oh. And that's going to make a pretty little decoration at the end of this teardrop. You're going to slide that out, leave those there, thread your needle up through the teardrop and your other beads. Pull your thread through and see how that makes a nice little decorative thing at the bottom. So now you're going to work your needle and thread all the way up to where you started. You want to make sure that when you buy thread for these projects that you buy big spools of thread because you're going to go through a lot of thread. For these floats, I use this Fireline, 6-pound Fireline, 125 yards on a spool. And I will put all of the supplies I used in the comments. We're working our needle all the way up through that string of beads that we just added. Make sure you go through every bead. If you skip a bead, like say we skip this one and then go up, it's gonna make that bead kind of stick out funny. So just make sure you get through every bead. Okay, almost back to the top. You're going to come out through your, where you started with your red bead. Okay, make sure this is taut but not too tight. If you pull it too tight, your beads will not hang really nice, but you don't want there to be like bare thread in there either. Okay. Now I like to sew back through. We came out of this bead on this side, on the left side. I like to sew through on the right side. And then just work your needle, work your way to where your next tassel is going to start. We're going to skip 2 and go into this next one, so I'm going to go ahead and skipping 2, starting on the next one. Okay, so that's where we'll start the next tassel. And I just like to do a slip knot there. Okay, we're ready to start our next tassel. And it's going to be just like the first one you made. So you're going to start with your 3/11 and your bugle 3/11 and a bugle, and continue that for 13 or as many as you want. You can make them however long you want, do it however you want. And then you'll add your decorative pieces that you chose, or add them throughout the whole tassel, whatever you want to do. And I'm going to go ahead and work on my tassels, and I'll see you at the end after I fix my knot. Okay, so you should have all of your tassels finished. I have 5 of them. You can have however many you want. I usually have more than 5, so to me it's looking kind of bare with only 5. So I'm thinking about adding some more, but basically if you do add more, they just would be similar to the ones you already have. And then you have your beaded encasement and that net pattern, and then your hanger to hang it up with. So I will take photos in my light box of the completed float. Now if you wanted to put this on a ornament, glass ornament, you would do basically the same thing for the net part of it. And then you would add shorter dangles. They wouldn't need to be so long. And you wouldn't need a hanger because the ornament would have its own little hanger and hook. So this is the traditional beaded net pattern. And like I mentioned earlier, you could do this with all 11/0 beads. Just make sure that you have a lot of 11/0 beads. And then have fun with your tassels and your whatever you're going to add to your tassels. They can be anything you want. Okay, so here is our finished traditional beaded net pattern for a glass float. I did add 5 more tassels because 5 looked really bare, and I usually do 8. So I think doing 1 more tassel between each of the 5 made it look much nicer. And of course you can do this in any color. You don't have to do it in red and white. Just have to make sure that you have enough beads on hand. And you can make this pattern for ornaments or any other round object that you have that you want to make a beaded cover for. They look so pretty hanging up in a window. They make great gifts. And they're a lot lot of fun to make, very relaxing. So I hope that you enjoyed this and that you'll please like, share, and subscribe. And have a great day.